Hello everybody, this is Derg, and today we're going to talk about snap points, specifically for ceiling tile height. Everybody knows you have your basic wall, and of course your half wall, and that's going to give you snap heights for your standard height and a half height. But what if I told you that many people don't know is that as far as the game is concerned, a rail is just as good as a wall for holding up that ceiling. Now, I'm sure we've all tried this before, but you won't snap a ceiling tile off a rail. That won't work. But what you might not know is that if you get a ceiling tile to the correct height and snap it, the rail will act as a support as good as any wall. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So, I have not done that in this location, so we're going to work through it together right now, and I'll show you the whole process of how you make this work. And the key is our good old friend, the fence foundation. So we're going to snap a fence foundation off, and then I'm going to check the height. And I'm going to see how this works. Well, it's pretty close. Probably not close enough to work, and it's a little short. It would look a little bit jinky even if it did, so we're going to forego doing that one. Now let's see what a full ceiling looks like, or a full wall looks like. And that I can work with. I know I have a nice steep slope there, so if I go with this height, I should be able to get pretty close to this middle rail. And so that's what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is pull up the rail and do this. Now this is more of a guide height. It's not required, but this way I don't have to guess. I know how close I am. So we'll bring out the fence foundation again. See, it drops on the slope. This is all dependent on your slope, so obviously this is going to vary depending on where you build, but that's okay. It's a little more work, or maybe a little less work, depends on how lucky you are. So I've dropped, but still not enough, so we'll bring another fence foundation out. I'm going to go ahead and snap another rail off the end there, so I still have my height adjustment, and let's see what this looks like. And there we go. Now that one, not perfect, but it's pretty close, and it should work just fine. So we're going to go off of this. Now to put a ceiling off of this, we have no structure. So we go there. Now, I'm not exactly sure why that worked, because it shouldn't give me the ceiling off the fence. Shouldn't actually give me foundation support. Normally, what you're going to want to do is snap a pillar there so that you can get that ceiling snapped out. I'm not sure, arc things I guess, why that worked, but when you do this you're probably not going to be able to do that. You'll have to snap this pillar first and then you'll get that ceiling out. But it works the same. So continuing on from there, we're going to go ahead and bring this all the way back to my supporting foundation. And if we check, you're going to see that ceiling tile is snapped about the height of there. Now, we could try to make this a little lower. There's actually a fudge factor in there where you can get essentially about that high or that much lower than your rail, and you'll still stick. So it's really about your exact wants or needs if you want to be that finicky, but if you're just looking for the general height, this will go for you. So I'm just going to remove this structure right here, and ta-da! As you can see, that ceiling tile is snapped off of that rail. Now a rail is 3 rails for a wall, so this would be 2/3 the height of a wall, as opposed to the half height you get out of these quarter wall pieces. Now, based off of math and fractions, which I know we all loved in school, I know that I can take a half off of that, bring another ceiling off of it, and 2/3 is the same as 4/6. More that awful fractions. But that 4/6 means that this is 1/6 the height of a regular wall in relation to the foundations that we have underneath here. So I'm going to slap this pillar down. Now the pillar is what supports this. And while that pillar would work anywhere, you can snap a pillar anywhere and put a wall off of it. There's no way for it to be that 1/6 height relation to the rest of these foundations right here. So by doing it this way, I know that this first ceiling is 1/6 the height of a wall based off that exact foundation. So what I've got now is 1/6 of a wall, 1/2 of a wall, 2/3 of a wall, and then the full wall height. So there's that. Now what we want to do is fill in these blanks, right? So we still want 1/3, or the height of a single rail. And then in between, there would be 5/6, or 1/3 and 1/2. I don't want to confuse anybody with math or make it feel like it's awful, but it's simply that rail and that quarter wall. And that's how you get a support for this height. But you might want that height. So we're going to go ahead and make it so that you can get to that height. So I know this goes the wrong direction. It'll be too much work to get these heights. And some of this is just experience. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. But I want to go up to judge my heights. So let's just go up and see where that gets us. That's a single wall height for 2/2. These are the 2 quarter walls. That gives you the single wall height. That's not quite the height they want, because this is the height we want right here. So it looks like it's a smidge too tall. So I want to go down. Unfortunately, my slope's not going to allow for that. It goes up. So if I had to, I could go up, and it would be very janky, but we could go up with this and keep going up a slope. However, looking at my terrain, it looks like I can come up, but this drops down. So then I can come back down to here. Now in doing that, I'm now lower than this fence foundation over here. So let's see how that lines up. So it's a single wall height, or 2/2, and then we'll take the ceiling, snap it off the top, and that comes out pretty good. So if I come back over here, I can see that that ceiling tile is lined up with that rail, and I bring that ceiling tile out into the rest of the structure here so we can see it up close. I'll do a little hover here instead of building a ladder or something. Apparently I'm terrible today. There we go. And there's my height. And again, I'll come over here to make sure that I got it. I'll take that away. And it's now snapped to that rail. So that rail, which is our quarter panel, which is a 1/2 height, and our rail gives us 5/6 the height of a wall. So there we go. So there's another one. Now we can do the same thing. If I'm at 5/6, I can bring down by a quarter panel, or 1/2 a wall height, to get my last snap point without actually having to do anything jinky. It's really simple. We just do that, bring down another wall off of there, and then bring this wall back inside. And now that wall is snapped to the single rail. So now, instead of having your traditional 2 snap heights, I've got 6 different snap heights with supports to hold them up. Now I know this is a bit complex looking here in front because everything's all stacked on top of itself, and I have the whole thing spread out so it's easier to see. So we'll run over there and show you what it looks like all by itself. So here's your 1/6 height on pillars, and there's their 1/3 or 2/6, which is on a rail. Then there's your 1/2 or 3/6, which is on the quarter walls. 2 rails, That's 2/3 or 4/6 on a ceiling. Then we've got a quarter wall and a rail. That's your 5/6 location and support. And then your full wall height. And this is just 1/3 above that. I just went ahead and brought that a 1/6 higher with his, it basically just continuing on what we built here. Now, why do I bother with the 1/6? The 1/6 height seems to be pretty important for building structures and such, but also it keeps it proportional to this entire thing. So if you take a character and walk this up, it goes up 1/6 of the wall height at a time, and your character will walk up it like a pair of stairs. And I just like proportion, so it just gives it that same proportion as the rest of the structure does. Now, I built something with that. I'm going to show you some of the things it did. This is the jig I used, and you can see it's got all kinds of wall or ceilings all snapped all over it. And that's because I was using it to bring these various heights into the structure I was building. To do that, you just build your jig, snap your foundations to it so that it's part of it, and then you just bring over the height you need to make your structure. For instance, if I want that ceiling height, which happens to be the appropriate height of one rail down from the top, that's how a daddy fits. So, bam, there's my daddy. It's done. All I have to do is bring that in, bring down a rail from in here, and that rail will support it. And then when you take this back off, it's all set. And you can either come up 2 rails or down 1 rail. It doesn't really matter. But that gives you the structure to support that ceiling height. And it keeps it proportional to the building that you're making. Now if you look at this, this is the ugly underneath. And that 1/6 I was talking about, I find that for fabricators, chem benches, that seems to be the important height to get the results that you want. So if we come up to this, I've got a buried Indie Forge just because they're big and obnoxious, and if I'm going to build like this, I might as well go ahead and bury some of it to make it less of an eyesore. I've got a vault. It's got that soft ceiling, so I went ahead and raised it up so you don't dip into it so much when you're running around unloading. There's some daddies. I went ahead and tossed some ceilings, some trapdoors over this, just for the looks, when they're out of the way, but you can walk right across all of this. These are all sitting on that 1/6 height in relation to the rest of the structure. It pushes it up for you. Over here, I've got refrigerators and industrial cookers for your cooking station. Again, it's all on the floor, so this way you just look down and do what you want to do, but it keeps all this clear and easy to move your dinos around inside. I did the same over here. Fabbies, chem benches. This is 1/3 down. You can see there is a little bit of a gap, but all I did was use that 1/3, that one railing down from the ceiling tiles height, or 2/3 up from the bottom. I just use that height to put these daddies down. Same thing for these cryo fridges. It's just that same height. I just brought it down. This is that from the bottom, that 1/6, and that puts them pretty flush to the floor. I can show you from the side here. Just take this wall out the way. So this would be the one railing height. So one railing up will give you cryo fridges that are pretty exact when it comes to flush. I find that to be pretty simple to deal with. But this is your basics on how it would work and just some ways you could use it. I fiddled with it around out here, checking out heights and builds to see what I could do with the structures. And obviously you can do whatever you want with it. But I think it's pretty useful, and I hope it helps you out. I have a much cleaner jig I built over here to showcase just what you can build next to your structure. If you just make this, then you can pull these heights. You just use foundations to attach to whatever you're building, and then you can use these heights wherever you want. Once you get to the ceiling to the appropriate place, wanted to just bring over, let's say, this ceiling height here, and I wanted to use that ceiling height. I should probably mention that. You want to put your exterior walls or any walls around in first, because it will obstruct if you don't. Kind of important. It's fine as long as you do the wall first. So make sure you have your walls in place before you do this. Otherwise you'll have to go back through. But you see that gives us that height we want. Now, you can do that for your exterior wall. But if I just want to support the ceiling, if I come back through and I snap in my rails, that's a 2 rail height. Come back, I remove this, and it sits right on those 2 rails all by itself, and I can take this out of the way, and it doesn't care. And that is snapped, and this works perfectly on official or any other settings. Hopefully this helps you guys out, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. That's it.